This happened back when I was 15 during a Boy Scout camping trip. At the last minute, my tent partner couldn't make it, so I ended up having to pitch my tent and sleep alone. By the time we finished hiking, the sun had already vanished. Setting up a tent by yourself in the pitch black isn't easy, but after some help from a leader and a quick campfire dinner, I crawled into my sleeping bag. Having the whole tent to myself felt like a luxury at first. More room to stretch out. I drifted off quickly, but in the dead of night, a heavy thud woke me. Someone was stomping around my tent. I figured it was just another scout headed to the latrine. But then I remembered our masters made us pitch our tents far apart for independence. I was isolated. The stomping didn't stop. It started circling my tent in a perfect heavy rhythm. I yelled out, asking who was there. The footsteps immediately bolted into the dark woods. I tried to go back to sleep, but the silence felt heavy. Sure enough, the stomping returned, circling me again. Angry and scared, I unzipped the door to confront what I thought was a prankster. Instead of a fellow scout, I was staring at a man, well over 6 feet tall, in his mid-30s. He didn't say a word. He just gave me a sickening, wide grin and pressed a finger to his lips, signaling me to be quiet. My blood turned to ice. I turned and sprinted toward the scoutmaster's tent, screaming at the top of my lungs. They checked the area with rifles but found no one, only deep, muddy boot prints circling my tent. We cut the trip short and left the next morning. I haven't slept in a tent since. Story 2. Last summer, a few friends and I went deep into the wilderness near the river. We spent the night fishing and enjoying a few drinks until the world felt blurry and everything seemed funny. Around 2 a.m. we finally crawled into our tents. My buddy and I shared one while the other two were in another. Suddenly, we heard a strange laughter coming from outside. We thought it was our friends messing with us and told them to shut up. But a voice from the other tent whispered back, "It isn't us." I froze. The laughter was coming from a single person and it sounded nothing like my friends. It was a deep, manic laugh that kept getting louder, moving closer to our campsite. My stomach twisted. There were no footsteps, no snapping twigs, no rustling leaves, just that terrifying, disembodied laugh. Then it stopped right outside our tent. The silence was even worse. In the moonlight we saw it, the silhouette of a large hand pressing against the fabric of our tent, slowly sliding down. We screamed, bolted out of the tent, and ran blindly through the woods until we found our car. I don't know who or what was out there that night, but that laugh still haunts my dreams. Story 3. Right after college, I decided to go on a solo backpacking trip through the Canadian wilderness. I was miles from civilization. The nearest town was a 3-hour bus ride away. For an entire week, I saw only one person, a man in a distant canoe. I took several photos with a disposable camera to remember the trip. When I got home and developed the film, the first few shots were just beautiful landscapes. But then I reached the middle of the roll. There were 2 photos I didn't take. They were clear, close-up shots of me fast asleep inside my tent. Someone had unzipped my tent while I was unconscious, stood over me and taken my picture. I had a complete breakdown right there in the drugstore. To this day, I sleep with my curtains tightly shut, always feeling like those unseen eyes are still watching me from the shadows. Story 4. My boyfriend and I wanted a quiet weekend away, so we hiked into a remote gorge. When we arrived at the trailhead, we saw 2 sketchy men watching us from an old van. I felt uneasy, but we pushed on. As we were setting up camp, a man suddenly appeared from the trees. He claimed he'd been living there for a month and offered to sell us firewood for $10. It was a lie. The woods were full of free wood. He seemed desperate and twitchy. He told us he was alone, but I could hear other voices whispering and yelling further up the hill. That night we didn't sleep. Every few minutes, we heard branches snapping right outside our tarp. We knew he was out there watching us from the dark. We decided to abandon our gear and run for it. As we stood up to leave, a voice boomed out of the darkness. "Leaving so soon?" We didn't look back. He started yelling for us to come back as we scrambled down the trail. We reached the car and called the rangers immediately. I don't know if he wanted to rob us or worse, but I'm just glad we didn't stay to find out. If you enjoyed these stories, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps me bring more terrifying content to you every week. Sweet dreams.